Hello and welcome to another video. And in this one we're going to be looking at character creation. We're not going to be looking at the character wizard. It's just that the 5e wiki article on character creation has now been updated. So this video kind of complements that. So we're going to create a character just using the age-old method of drag and drop. So this is a view we have as a player in a game of Fantasy Grounds. We've joined our Dungeon Master and we're ready to create our first character. So the first thing we would want to do is to go to our modules, click on activation and make sure that we've got modules loaded where there is character creation information, and obviously the player's handbook is a good place to start. So we're just going to load the player's handbook and then come out of that. And then we're going to go to our players menu, click on characters and then click on the green add item button, and we'll get a new blank character sheet. So just having a look around the character sheet here, we can see that this is the main page. We've got some information down here about abilities, saving throws. We've got bits in the middle for armor class, initiative and speed. We've got a bit down here for wounds, etc. And we've got information up here about our class, level, background, race, and of course a character name. And down at the right hand side here, we've got a number of tabs. So we can click on the skills tab. We can see all our skills, all our abilities, etc., our inventory, some notes, and the actions tab at the end. Now all of these are pretty much blank at the moment because we've got nothing in our character. So the first thing we want to do to start making our character is to add in our ability scores. Now, the reason we do this if we're doing or using drag and drop is that if we do this first, then when we drag in our race, then it will add in the correct ability scores and will give us our final totals. Whereas if we do it the other way around, then we'll kind of need to work out what our racial abilities have and then kind of take that away from what we want, etc. So it gets a little bit more complicated. So we're just going to add in our ability scores first. So to edit these, we just click in the box here, and you can see that the outline of the box has kind of gotten a bit darker to show that it's now in edit mode. And we can add in our first ability. And then we just go down and add in the abilities that we want, 15 and 8. And there we go, we're done. Now you can see that immediately certain things have changed on this sheet here. For example, our armor class has gone up to 11 because we've got a +1 for our dexterity, so that's added into our armor class. Our initiative has gone up to +1 again because our dexterity score is a +1, and you'll see that the saving throws here have also been updated to reflect the bonuses that we get based on the ability scores that we've just put in. So let's now add in our race. So if we open up the character section of the menu here and then open up races, we'll get a list of the races which we have available to us. Obviously this will depend on what books that you have open. We've just got the player's handbook, but if there are if you have other books, then you may have other races. So in this case, we actually want to take the dwarf race. So we're just going to click on this icon here, and we're just going to drag it and drop it onto the race section in our character sheet. And when we do that, we get the submenu, which asks us to select a subrace. Now, if we wanted to find out what these subraces do, we can click on the link icon here, and this will tell you what the subrace does, and we can further click on any of these links here, which will tell you what it is that we get from selecting the subrace. If you wanted to see the dwarf itself, then you can click on this icon here, and that will tell you all about the dwarf from that link there. We're going to take the hill dwarf here because they get a bonus to wisdom. So now that we've selected our hill dwarf, we can see that in the chat box here, it tells us that a bunch of stuff has been added to the character sheet. You can see here that we've got dark vision, for example. Our perception here has gone up to 13. our wisdom score has gone up to 16, and the con score as well has gone up. We originally had that at 13, but that's now gone up to 15 with our racial bonuses. Other things which have changed, our speed has been entered, and of course the saving throws here have also changed in line with the additions that we've got to our ability scores. If we have a quick look at our actions tab, we see that a couple of racial actions have been added into the actions. And if we click on the abilities tab, we can see that a bunch of stuff has been added into the traits section, and also some languages have been added into the languages section of the abilities tab. And again, if we want to find out what any of these traits or abilities do, then we can just click on the link icons here, and it'll bring up a page of information telling you what these things actually do. So now that we've added our race, we can go back to our main tab and we can think about our background. So we'll get rid of races and we'll open up backgrounds. And we're just going to pick the Acolyte background here. Obviously, again, your choice of backgrounds will depend on what books you have open. We've got the Player's Handbook, so that's what we'll use. And we're going to pick the Acolyte, and we're just going to do the same as we did with the race, which is to drag this icon, and we're going to just drop it onto the background section of the character sheet. And once again, you can see that some things have been added in chat. If we pop over to our skills tab here, you can see that we have been given proficiency in insight. This little yellow star next to insight shows us that we have been given proficiency here. And that's reflected in this total here. We now have a +5. We would be only getting a +3 because our wisdom score here is giving us a bonus of +3, but because we're proficient, we get that extra 2 points from our proficiency modifier up at the top right hand side of the main tab. We've also been given proficiency in religion, which uses intelligence as its ability, and our intelligence, of course, is a bit low. It's only at 10, so we get nothing from the intelligence, but we get the 2 extra points from the proficiency in religion. So really that's our, and if we go to our abilities tab, we can see now that we have a feature, the Shelter of the Faithful, which is something that we get from our background. And we've also got another couple of languages that we can choose. It says 2 of your choice. So our background is giving us some more languages as well. Okay, now that we've got backgrounds in, we can turn our attention to classes. If we open the classes menu here and we just find cleric, we're just going to drag and drop that into the class and level section of the character sheet. This is going to pop up a couple of, or is going to pop up a selection box where we've got to choose a couple of skills. Now we already got a couple of skills from our background, so we're going to choose history and medicine here. Because sometimes the skills will be duplicated. I mean, for example, if we have a look at our skills, we can see we've already got insight and religion are also available from our class. So we don't want to pick them again. So we've picked 2 different skills in this case. And then we're going to click OK. And because we're a cleric, we get our class specialization at level 1. And the available specializations will pop up here, and again this will entirely depend on what books you have available. There could be more than these options here. We just have to pick one, and we're going to pick the life domain. And once we've done that, we're going to click on OK. And again in chat we can see that a whole bunch more stuff has been added automatically to the character. If we pop back to the main tab, we can see right away that we've got a couple of saving throw here that have got yellow icons next to them, which means we are proficient with those saving throws. So we're proficient with wisdom saving throws. So we now got a bonus of +5, which is obviously our +3 from our wisdom, plus the 2 extra points from our proficiency. So that's popped up to +5. And our charisma, we now have a bonus of +1, which would be our -1 for having such poor charisma, and added in with the +2. We can also see that we've got some hit points now. We've got 11 hit points here. We've also got a hit dice down here. And if we go into this little icon here, this little sort of kind of magnifying glass icon, we can open up our class and level dialog. And we can see that we've got a class of cleric. We can see our specialization here is our life domain. We can see the hit dice there again. And we can also see that we're a first level caster, or a full caster. With this 1x shows that we're a full caster. If we click on this, we can change that to a half caster or a 1/3 caster, or not a caster at all. But we want to leave that at 1. Whilst we're in here, we know that to get to the next level, we need 300 XP, so we can type in 300 XP into that box. Fantasy Grounds doesn't do anything with that, but it's a handy thing to let you know what your next level XP is. We've also got a button here for the level up, which if you're using the character wizard, this is what you would use to then level up your character to the next level as appropriate. Finally, down here we can see there's another couple of links, and it's the same idea. If we click on this will tell us all about the life domain, and this one here will tell us all about the cleric. If we pop over to our skills tab again, we can see that the 2 skills that we chose have now become proficient in. We've got these yellow stars against medicine and history, and we've got the appropriate totals have all been worked out for us here. We click on the abilities tab, and a bunch more stuff has been added in. We've got some extra spells. We've got the spell casting abilities shown here, and we've got some armor and weapon proficiencies as well have been added to the character sheet. And if we flip to the actions tab, we see that we've got a new thing in here as well for the disciple of life trait which our class gets. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's have a look at our inventory, and let's see if we can equip our character a bit. The inventory is obviously empty at the moment, but we've got the encumbrance maximum here has been filled in based on our strengths. We have obviously got no treasure, and we've got no equipment. So let's get some equipment. And if we go into the campaign this time and click on items, and we'll bring up this dialog here. We've got 3 icons at the top here: armor, weapons, and gear. So if we click on armor first of all, this will bring up all the various armors that are available, and again it will depend on what books you have open, what's here, but we've got the PHB. So these are all the armors which are available from the player's handbook. So our cleric is able to use heavy armor because of his life domain. So let's give him some chainmail. So again, we're just going to do the same thing here. We're just going to drag this, and we're going to drop that chainmail into the character's inventory. And you can see right away that the weight of the chainmail is now been added into this box here, showing that we are carrying 55 pounds of equipment. If we pop over to the main tab, we can now see that our armor class has gone up to 16. And if we click this little icon here, we can see how that has been calculated out. We've got our base armor of 10. The armor is adding in a +6. We are proficient with the armor, so therefore we are not going to get disadvantage if we make attack rolls whilst wearing this armor. This little icon lights up is set to default to proficient. on the basis that nobody's going to wear armor that they're not proficient with. But if you happen to not be proficient with heavy armor and you select it, then you should tick this box so that your proficiency isn't taken into account, and you will get disadvantage on attack rolls. We're not getting any modifier for our dexterity because this is heavy armor, and that limits the amount of proficiency or bonus that you can get from your dexterity. And in any case, our dexterity is yes, our dexterity is 1. So we're not getting any bonus from our dexterity there because we're wearing heavy armor. And we're also getting disadvantage on stealth saving throws because we are wearing heavy armor. You can see all that information here. We should get disadvantage on stealth. We need a minimum of 13 strength, and it gives us an AC of 16. So all of that is reflected in this little dialogue, and it's updated this information here. So if we go back to our inventory, our cleric can also use shields. So let's give her a shield. So we're just going to again drag and drop the shield into the inventory. It automatically adds it in. It's now showing that our encumbrance is 61. It's totaled up all the stuff that we are carrying. And if we go back to our main tab, we can see that our armor class has now gone up to 18 because we're getting another 2 points of armor class from our shield. And if we pop into this little dialogue again, it shows there that we've got that 2 points for shield and our 6 for armor, making our total 18. All right, so we've got our armor. Let's give our cleric some weapons. So we're back into our inventory, and this time we're going to click on the weapons button up in the top here. And our cleric is proficient with a number of different weapons, but we're going to give them a warhammer. So we're going to drag and drop that in, and again our current total and our encumbrance has gone up. And let's also give the cleric a light crossbow as well, since we can use those, and so we're going to drag that in as well. That's all the weapons that we need, so we'll close that off, and if we pop over to our actions tab now, you can see that Fantasy Grounds has automatically added the weapons into the Actions tab here under the Weapons section. We can see we've got our light crossbow. This little symbol here shows that this is a ranged weapon. Currently, this is showing as being in the primary hand. We've got a dice roll here, a dice icon, which shows a +3, which is our chance to hit, or our chance to roll with a +3 with a crossbow. Fantasy Grounds knows that this is a ranged weapon and therefore uses dexterity as its modifier. And we can see that we've got some the damage here, and there's also a little yellow icon showing that we're proficient. If we click on this little icon here, the magnifying glass, it'll give you more information on this crossbow. It shows us the properties of the crossbow. It shows us that actually it's two-handed. It shows the dice damage and the stat on which it is based. So it says here base, but Fantasy Grounds knows that that means in this case that it's dexterity. If your character has some kind of ability which allows them to use a different ability score for their light crossbow, for ranged weapons in general, then you can come to this stat here and you can click through the various statistics. And as we click through these statistics, for example, you can see that if we chose con, then we're now getting a +4 to hit rather than a +3. And intelligence will give us a +2, etc. And if we were somehow to be able to use wisdom for this, we'd get a +5. We can click through that and just leave that at base. There's no reason, unless you've got some kind of ability, to change this dialog. But this is shows you what you can do, or what all the weapon factors are. Now, since this is a two-handed weapon, we can come to this little icon here, and it's, as I said before, this is showing us being in our primary hand. But this is a two-handed weapon, so if we click this once, it shows that we are now using this weapon in two hands. For the crossbow, this makes no material difference, but for certain other weapons, it can actually mean a difference. For example, the Warhammer. So the Warhammer here is showing as a melee weapon. It's showing at the moment that we've got it in our primary hand, and here we've got a +4 bonus to hit, and this is because melee weapons are based off strength, and Fantasy Grounds knows that this is the stat that is used for melee weapons, so we have a +2 because of our strength, plus our proficiency modifier, so we're getting an overall +4. And we also get our strength bonus added into the damage roll as well. And it also shows you the type of damage that we're doing with this Warhammer. Now, if we have a look at the Warhammer properties, we can see that it's actually versatile, and it shows in brackets here 1d10, which means that if we use this weapon with two hands, then we get a d10 rather than a d8 for the damage. So we can tell Fantasy Grounds if we're going to be using our Warhammer with two hands by clicking this icon and changing it to the two-handed weapon, and you can see now that the damage section has been updated to 1d10 plus 2 rather than the 1d8. If we click this again, this shows that we're using this weapon now in our offhand, and if we were to do that, then we would lose the bonus that we get from our strength or dexterity, whichever ability this weapon was based on. But we'll switch this back to the primary hand for the moment. So we've got weapons and armor, so we can further equip our character. If we go to the gear icon here, and this will show a list of items of gear, which has got various submenus here. So we've got a crossbow, so we want to have some crossbow bolts, otherwise there's no point in having the crossbow. So let's drag in some crossbow bolts. If we scroll down to the holy symbol here, our cleric gets a holy symbol, so let's give him an amulet. And let's also give him a pack. If you see here, we've got equipment packs. So if we click on any of these, it'll tell us what's actually in that equipment pack. But let's give them an explorer's pack here. And when we drag and drop this in, it adds in all the items that are in that equipment pack. So if we have a look again at the explorer's pack here, we got a backpack, a bedroll, a mess kit, rations, and various other things, and all of that has now been added into our inventory in one big swoop. And we can see now that our current weight that we're carrying is 129, so we're still well below our maximum. So Fantasy Grounds doesn't actually do anything with these numbers, it's just there for your benefit so that you can see whether or not you're encumbered or not, and then you would need to take account of that when making attacks, etc. Okay, so we've got all our equipment in, we've got our race, class, and things like that in. And this video is already getting to 23 minutes long, so I think we'll end there, and we'll see what further things that we need to do in the second part of this video. So thank you for watching. Cheers for now.